Here are the doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, this evening we are joined by Reverend Dr. Carletta Allen of the Asbury United Methodist Church in Annapolis, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from District 30. Members, please rise for the invocation.
Name above all names, we gather in these hallowed halls to hear from the greater wisdom that transcends us all, from those we represent and from one another. These men and women are called to honor, live by, and articulate the highest ideals of our republic. They represent the greatness of our state and its people. Grant them the courage to hear hard words, face hard tasks, and yet preserve the unity required for democracy to flourish. In the midst of a global pandemic that has inflicted untold costs upon our communities, our families, our businesses, and our institutions, we have turned to them time and again for answers to the pain that we are feeling. We know that they too have felt the cost of this thing called COVID, and yet they have continued to rise to the occasion, to hear from their constituents, to hear from greater wisdom, and to hear from one another. We pray that you will grant them courage for the living of these days, for the legislating of these days, for the unity of these days that model for our nation and for the world. We are counting on them to do what we cannot do, and we thank you for their response to your call to do it day after day. And we pray in the name of all that is good. Amen.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 30.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think everyone can see why the Reverend Dr. Carletta Allen is an asset not just to District 30, but to everyone in government, and she is a constant source of wisdom and strength for me personally and our community at large. And Mr. President, I move that we journalize the prayer.
Without objection, certainly. Thank you, Senator, for inviting her. We appreciate her, and we'll journalize the prayer. Chair recognizes Senator from District 10.
My button won't work.
Try again. Okay. All right. Has everyone recorded their presence? Everyone recorded their presence? Looks like we're missing a couple folks. All right. Clerk will take the call. With 44 and a half members in the chamber, 46 members in the chamber, and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. I hope everyone had a very wonderful holiday weekend for those who celebrate Passover and Easter. And Chair recognizes the Senator from the District 32.
Mr. President, I'm here. I missed my button.
All right.
Thank you.
We have it? All right, 47. Let's see, I hope we got to see some basketball games. The Stanford women had a heck of a game last night, and we'll see if Baylor can pull it out tonight. If we didn't hint the direction there. All right. Let's see, any other announcements before we jump in today?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 6.
What about the Moes?
Oh, yeah. How about that sweep, huh? I haven't seen the game today. Or probably just start. No, are they off today? Yankees tomorrow. Yeah, it's a great start. Great start for those O's. It's a good sign to the spring. All right. Also, I hope folks saw the opening great event today, joined by the governor and the speaker and lieutenant governor for the ribbon-cutting opening of the brand-new Lawyers Mall, which, fantastic event. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful space now. Now we got to take on that DLS building. That's our next big one. Coming up soon. All right. Any other announcements before we jump in? If not, without objection, so be considered the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Look, we've got a lot of work. We're going to do the best we can today. We won't get through all of it, but we'll get through some of it and see where we get for tomorrow. A calendar for folks so that have an idea. Probably tomorrow we'll probably just have our one session. Wednesday and Thursday are likely going to be double session days. And then, unfortunately, sadly, block off Saturday. It looks like Saturday is more likely than not. We just got a lot backed up to get done. So we're getting to the tail end here, and we'll get through it. All right. First order of business is message from the House, Calendar 5. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 20, Senator Carter, vehicle laws, canceled, revoked, and suspended driver's licenses, penalties.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We've got some passed House bills coming a little late. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 467, Delegate Rogers, renewable energy portfolio standard alterations and compliance fees.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. Those will all go to the Senate Rules Committee. All right, we've got a number of messages with conference committees, and we'll just take these up as they come. We're going to start with a concurrence. We'll try and get those out of the way. This is a Senate bill amended in the House, or a number of them. So let's go ahead and start there, get these Senate bills out of the way. This is calendar number 13. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 3, Senator Griffith, Preserve Telehealth Access Act of 2021, Finance.
Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance on the House amendments.
Thank you. Senate Bill 3 expands Medicaid and health insurance coverage and reimbursement requirements for services provided through telehealth. The House amendments align the Senate bill with the House cross-file that was passed by the Senate earlier this session. We move to concur.
All right, the Finance Committee moves that the Senate concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not on the amendments, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 3 is now again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 3, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 31, Senator Washington, electricity and gas, energy suppliers, supply offers, finance.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you. Senate Bill 31 allows a third-party retail supplier of electricity or natural gas to offer to provide service to households that receive certain state energy assistance only if the supply offer is approved by the Public Service Commission. The offer must commit to charging at or below the standard offer service price and may not include a termination fee. The House amendments conform the bill to the House bill, removing a specified education program. We move to concur.
All right, the Finance Committee moves for the Senate to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 31 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 31, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 52, Senator Washington, Public Health, Maryland Commission on Health Equity, the Shirley Nathan Pulliam Equity Act of 2021, Finance.
Chair recognizes Chair of the Committee on the amendments.
Thank you. Senate Bill 52 establishes the Maryland Commission on Health Equity to 1, employ a health equity framework and specified examinations. 2, provide advice on issues of racial, ethnic, cultural, or socioeconomic health disparities. 3, facilitate coordination of expertise and experience in developing a comprehensive health equity plan addressing the social determinants of health. And 4, set goals for health equity and prepare a plan for the state to achieve health equity in alignment with other statewide planning activities. The House amendments restore the preamble to the bill. We move to concur.
All right, the Finance Committee moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 52 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 52, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 135, Senator Klossmeyer, Business Regulation, Battery Charge Fence Security Systems Regulations, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. Senate Bill 135 authorizes local governments to only require compliance with a local alarm ordinance or permit regarding the installation of a battery charge fence system. The House amendments exempt a specific type of electric fence from the provisions of the bill. We move to concur.
All right, the Finance Committee moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 135 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 135, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 204, Senator Vital, Healthcare Facilities, Assisted Living Programs, Regulations, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the amendments.
Thank you. Senate Bill 204 requires the Maryland Department of Health to adopt regulations for memory care and Alzheimer's disease units within assisted living programs. The House amendments move regulatory requirements to a different part of the code and require that the department convene stakeholders to make revisions to assisted living regulations by December 1, 2022. We move to concur.
All right, Finance Committee moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 204 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 204, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 638, Senator Augustine, Maryland Insurance Commissioner, Specialty Mental Health Services and Payment of Claims, Enforcement. This is an emergency bill, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. Senate Bill 638 requires the Maryland Insurance Commissioner to enforce statutory performance standards relating to the payment of claims against the Administrative Services Organization that is responsible for managing care and paying claims for the Maryland Public Behavioral Health System. The House amendments align the Senate bill with the House cross-file that was passed by the Senate earlier this session. We move to concur.
The Finance Committee moves that the Senate concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 638 is again on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone should change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 638, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 783, Senator Hayes, Baltimore City, West North Avenue Development Authority, Finance.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you. Senate Bill 783 establishes the West North Avenue Development Authority for the purpose of developing a comprehensive neighborhood and revitalization strategy for the benefit of the target area and buffer zone in Baltimore City. The bill establishes provisions governing the membership, procedures, and duties of the authority. The House amendments conform the Senate bill to the House bill as amended and passed by the Senate earlier this session. We move to concur.
All right, the Finance Committee moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 783 is again on before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 783, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to EHE concurrence. This is not too long of a concurrence calendar here. This is number 14. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 432, Senator King, Public Libraries, Electronic Book Licenses, Access, EHE.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Committee on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator, just give us one
Senate
moment.
Bill,
One moment. Got to pull it up in the system here. (14). Senate bills amended in the House. Concurrence calendar 14. All right, Senator may proceed.
thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments conform the Senate bill to the House bills passed unanimously in the Senate. The amendments expand the scope of the bill, and they're actually a good amendment, to cover electronic literary products rather than just electronic books. It also delays the effective date to January 1, 2022. Mr. President, move that EHE committee recommends concur.
All right, the EHE committee recommends the Senate adopt the amendment, although there was a little bit of surprise that the House had a good amendment. Any further discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 432 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 432, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 448, Senator Edwards, County Board of Education, Student Transportation Vehicles and Report, EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 432 deals with rural areas where yellow buses don't work, going down small lanes for one or two students. It asks for contracted services. We've recommended a report and a sunset. They amended it to say it should be a report after 5 years and sunset after 5 years. The House amendments conform the Senate bill to the House bills amended. Again, EHE recommends concurring with the House amendments.
Better have some snow tires over there, right? Committee moves to adopt the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. The Senate Bill 448 is again before us on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 448, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 749, Senator Ellis, Charles County Board of Education, Membership Alterations, EHE.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill addresses how members are elected in Charles County to the Board of Education. There were two bills. There are a couple of words difference. It's a technical correction. We move to concur with the amendment.
All right, EHE moves to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 749 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 749, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we have some messages from the House. Let's start on the one from Senate Bill 202. The clerk will read the message.
Senate Bill 202, Senator Kelly, Correctional Services, Parole, Life Imprisonment. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Carter chairman, Senator Wallstreicher, Senator Huff. The House appoints Delegate Clippinger chair, Delegate Williams, Delegate Malone. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
All right, the message having been read is ordered journalized. We've got another conference committee here. We've got House Bill 6. Clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 6, Delegate Feldmark, Economic Development, Maryland Technology Development Corporation alterations. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of delegates refused to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate D. Barnes chair, Delegate Feldmark, Delegate Long. Said bill is returned herewith. By order, Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. Let's read the message read on back to the House. Clerk, read the message.
By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate D. Barnes chairman, Delegate Feldmark, Delegate Long. The Senate appoints Senator Hayes chair, Senator Augustine, Senator Reedy. Said bill is returned herewith. By order, Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
All right, message having been read is adopted. All right, we've got a couple Senate bills. Let's get these out of here. If there are no objections, we'll start with the third readers, and then we got a couple second reader Senate bills. This is Calendar 60. Clerk will read the first bill. This will be Senate third reading calendar number 60.
Senate Bill 392, Senator Augustine, Electricity and Gas Limited Income Mechanisms and Assistance. This is an emergency bill.
All right, Senate Bill 392 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 392, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 811, Senator Hershey, Unemployment Insurance Computation of Earned Rate of Contribution, Applicable Table of Rates. This is an emergency bill.
All right, Senators, Senate Bill 811 is on third reading for final passage. This is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 811, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed, even with the senator's mask predilections. We were glad to pass along this bill to the House. All right, we've got a committee on finance, second reader, Senate bill. Clerk will read the first, or will read the bill. This is calendar report number 42 from finance. 42 reports out of finance. I've been doing some work in finance.
Senate Bill 577, Senator McCray, Economic Development, Marker Space Initiative Pilot Program, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 577 establishes the Maker Space Initiative Pilot Program in TEDCO, subject to specified requirements, including the TEDCO partner with Open Work Center, the Open Work Center for Advanced Fabrication Technologies in Baltimore City. The Makerspace Initiative Fund is established in TEDCO for the administration of the program. The governor must include an appropriation of at least $275,000 in FY 2023 and $450,000 in FY 2024 and 2025. Each year, TEDCO must provide specified financial assistance to eligible applicants for the establishment or expansion of makerspaces in the state and reimburse up to $100,000 for technical assistance provided by the Open Works Center for Advanced Fabrication Technologies in Baltimore City. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 removes a requirement that TEDCO consult the Secretary of Commerce before adopting certain standards. Amendment number 3 alters the funding provided under the bill. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report, Mr. President.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the 3 amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 577 is hereby ordered passed, printed for third reader. Let's go to judicial proceedings. We've got a Senate bill here on second. This is report number 37, trailing finance a little bit. So clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 334, Senator Carter, Water Pollution Control, Intervention in Civil Actions, Rights and Authority, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The bill as amended establishes that a person who meets the threshold standing requirements under the Federal Clean Water Act has an unconditional right and the authority to intervene in a civil action initiated by the state in state court to require compliance with subtitle 3 of Title 9 of the environmental article, which governs water pollution control, related regulations, and any related discharge permit, effluent limitation, or order issued by the Maryland Department of the Environment. A person who meets the requirements to intervene under the bill has the same rights as an interested person or aggrieved party under the Clean Water Act, including the right to apply for judicial review and appeal. There are 2 committee amendments. The amendments conform the Senate bill to its cross-file. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2, the term of a civil action brought by the state is replaced with a civil action initiated by the state, trying to clarify that the bill does not apply to administrative hearings that are appealed to the courts. And 2, specifies that a person exercising the right to intervene pursuant to the bill must act in accordance with applicable practices, procedures, and laws in the state. I'd move the amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 5 on the amendments.
Could I ask the floor leader and the sponsor a question? Couple questions.
Will the Floor Leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Thank you. I'm looking through this bill and wanted to be sure to just to clarify a couple things. Number one, I noticed in the committee testimony that MML and MACO at the beginning were opposed. Do the amendments help assuage their concerns?
Yes, the amendments caused them to withdraw their opposition, and now they are no longer opposed, which is why I'm happy to say that I think it passed out of committee unanimously or close to unanimously because of that reason.
Well, I noticed that. Thank you. I noticed that, and that gave me some comfort, but I did want to ask a couple of other questions just to be sure I understand. There have been instances in our state where there are groups of citizens who will sue or try to sue over violations like this. I know you explained that. I was listening to the explanation, but if you could just clarify me, are there any safeguards to keep, say, somebody's neighbor from suing in state court over a violation of the Clean Water Act because they are upset that their neighbor is building a deck? I mean, that kind of thing. Or because the farmer down the road they thought they saw did X, Y, and Z. How does this bill change?
So I think that the safeguard is that it's not allowing a citizen or a group of citizens to initiate an action. It's simply the right to intervene in an action that's already been brought, and they would have to be an interested party with standing in order to do that.
Okay, so they can join in, to use a layman's term, they can join in on something being brought, but they'd have to prove why they have standing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. All right, Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel. Question for the Floor Leader?
Yes, please.
Senator may proceed.
So I was looking into this initially. So if there's 2 parties, the state, and they settle with the other party, the other person or other group that can intervene, can they slow the process down because of that? So if the 2 parties agree to a settlement, can that other party now come in and say, I want to look at that and slow it down?
So I don't know about slowing it down, but once they've intervened, they'd have the right to pursue. Yeah.
The what?
So I guess the answer is yes and no. Yes, if you want to look at it as if it's slowing it down, but they'd have the same right as any other party because they'd be in the suit.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Questions on the 2 amendments? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 334 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. All right, we've got a layover calendar of a Senate bill here. I think this will be our last Senate bill. I think this is our last one. This is layover calendar number 29. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 460, Senator Feldman, Economic Development, Advanced Clean Energy and Clean Energy Innovation Investments and Initiatives. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the three committee amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The three committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 460 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, let's get on to some of these House bills. All right, we've got layover calendar number 23. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 391, Delegate Hartman, Solid Waste Management, Prohibition on Releasing a Balloon into the Atmosphere. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable report.
All right, questions on the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted.
Mr. President?
Yes. Let's pull that back. I did not see the senator. Senator from Baltimore and Howard counties?
I'd just like to offer an amendment.
Okay, so we are good on the report.
Yeah.
Senator has an amendment. We've adopted the report. We're open to the amendment. Amendment number, Senator.
This is amendment number 903328/1.
All right, give us just one moment. One moment. Senator may explain the amendment.
So this is just a conforming amendment to the Senate version that passed last week. This is an identical amendment to the amendment that was offered by my colleague from Baltimore City. So this is just conforming it to the Senate version that passed earlier.
Cigarette butts in this one? No cigarette butts in this. No, just this is the other one. All right, on the amendment, all in favor of the amendment? Any objections to the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 391 is ordered passed for third reading. All right, we've got layover calendar number 25. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1210, the Speaker, Corporate Diversity Board, Executive Leadership and Mission. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable report.
All right, Senators, House Bill 1210 on the one committee amendment. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wondered if the floor leader would be willing to yield for a couple of questions.
Floor leader. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Floor leader, I thought we should it might help for us to remind the body a little bit about what this bill does, because it was held several days ago and we've obviously been through the weekend. So I'm going to say what the bill does, and I just want to be sure I'm correct, and feel free to answer and elaborate if you if you'd like. Just to boil it down, what this bill is doing is setting up a scenario in Maryland where, with two exceptions because of amendments, if you are a business wanting to get a state contract, apply for and receive a state contract over $1 million, tax credits over $1 million, or a state grant over $1 million, you must have a member of underrepresented populations on your board, correct, or your executive leadership. Is that, or you must have a mission that is designed to help those groups. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How do we define, as I look at this, on page 2 of what I have as a reprint, underrepresented community mentions several different racial minority groups. One question that I had, and I did ask it in committee, but I wonder if you could talk about, it doesn't really define how we determine that these folks are who they say they are. It says self-identify. Now, obviously, in some cases, that'll be pretty easy, but other times, someone can self-identify a certain way. We've had a famous case from the United States Senate of someone who self-identified as a Native American for many years. So how is the state going to adjudicate whether someone is who they say they are?
So as you know, the bill, the regulations would be identified with a combination of Commerce and one other agency, and in those regulations, they will identify how they would go, identifying how the individuals self-identify themselves.
Is the Commerce Department would be responsible for verifying that they've met that respect? Because that's not, I don't believe that is in the.
It's both Commerce and the Office of
bill.
Minority Affairs.
Okay, it does say Department of Commerce. Okay. I have another question on page 3. And again, we talked about this a little bit in committee, but I don't know that we ever got a very good answer. On page 3, as I mentioned, you either have to have membership of one of these underrepresented groups on your entity's board, or number 2 could be support for underrepresented communities in the entity's mission. What does that mean? What is that defined? Because I don't see it defined anywhere in the bill what your mission is. So, as an example, if I'm a road contractor, could I say that our goal is in part to build roads into traditionally African American communities or traditionally Hispanic communities, or is that not? Would that apply, or is it more? Is something different?
Yeah, Senator, I would say that my response is no different than that I stated before. Obviously, the agencies that are responsible for carrying out and enforcing this bill that soon will become law will have to have the responsibility of defining those regulations and thereby applying that standard to make sure that they're consistent with the laws we pass.
Can I ask you, how does the provision of this bill, one of the things I wondered about is how is this different from the minority business enterprise program that we've done in Maryland? Why this seems like something sort of additional on top of that? Can you talk about the differences?
Right. So with the minority business enterprise program, which often fails to meet their goals, the object of that piece of legislation that we passed some years ago was to help individual entities that are doing business with the state to meet certain goals far as diversity, and it was really around the ownership of those organizations. And so just to give an example to make it more practical, in the case of a construction contract, making sure that a certain percentage of those subcontractors that contribute to the work within that contract are those who are owned by minority or woman-owned businesses. And so this piece of legislation actually deals with entities that may have some type of board structure or various shareholders, those decision makers that make up that organization, to make sure that there's representation amongst those boards.
But with the MBE program, which I've supported a lot of the aims of the MBE program and voted many times for different things to try to help that along. Why, when we talk about the board makeup, already if someone's applying for a state contract of $1 million or more, they already have got to meet MBE goals, correct? Or at least be close to meeting those MBE goals. So this is like an additional step to say the state is going to get into the business of saying who you have on your board if you want to apply for a taxpayer contract, correct? This is a step beyond, right?
Yeah, actually, this legislation doesn't say who you have to have on your board. It makes suggestions as to who the representation should be. And one could also argue that the current MBE program, with the goals set that are often underachieved, is part of the equation that's contributing to the inclusiveness that some of these organizations represent.
You just said it isn't trying to get into the membership of who's on it, but it's pretty clear in the bill. It says that you have to be able to demonstrate membership of underrepresented communities in the entity's board or executive leadership. So how is it not?
Or in your mission statement, as you previously stated.
So to go to I'm going to take this tack, and then I have one other question, Mr. President. In the mission statement, but I think we heard in the committee, it's not enough for, Jimmy Smith's paving and contracting to say it's our mission to make sure that roads leading to such and such historically minority community, that's not going to be enough to meet this, correct? Just having a mission statement?
I'm not sure. We haven't defined that in the legislation, so we're not sure if that would be enough or if it would meet it. It would be defined in the regulations as this bill passed.
Okay, that's interesting. That seems like maybe an issue, but I understand. I don't want to belabor the body too much longer. One other question, and this really didn't come up in committee. Why are women not included in this underrepresented community?
Because they were identified in a piece of legislation passed 2 years ago in which the questioner voted against.
They were identified to get they were identified in a piece of legislation 2 years ago, but they were identified as it was a corporations, first of all, not small businesses, and it was reporting about the number of women or the percentage of women on these boards. This is a set aside. This is a quota type bill, and we're leaving women out in this bill. It's not my bill or yours, but the bill leaves women out, correct?
No, that's incorrect. It doesn't specifically mention women, but in the sorry about that. In those that are identified, it's absolutely possible that women can be African American women.
For sure.
They can be some of the other categories that's listed in here as Asian Native women. They can also be Hispanic women, Asian women, Pacific Islander, Native American, and Native Hawaiian women. And so they are inclusive, although not identified as a separate and distinct category.
Okay, and I guess in my response to that would be, we have always, when we've talked about whether it's for MBE or other types of discussing business issues to help historically disadvantaged groups, we've always included women-owned businesses as part of that. So this is a departure from that. But I thank you very much for your answers, Mr. President. Thank you for questions. I think there's some possibility of some amendments, but I know this is a House bill, so we may have another opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes Senator from District 34, followed by the Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Full leader yield for questions.
Pierre So, Senator may proceed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I would like to focus on subsection D on page 3 of this bill. My colleague from Carroll County was focusing on the creation of reports that are required for businesses that want to get a state benefit. When I look at section D, however, on page 3, it states, I think rather clearly, and I just want to make sure this is the intent, right? I think maybe there's some confusion here, but to me, what this says is that there will be a scorecard created on every business in the state, whether you want to get a state benefit or not, whether you want to be a state contractor or get a state grant. Every business in the state, except for certain family-owned businesses and sole proprietorships, that every other business entity, that the state of Maryland is going to create a scorecard on you and tell people whether you have certain racial and ethnic other folks on your board or your makeup, and what you're doing to support underrepresented communities. Is the intent to create such a scorecard for every business registered with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, even if they don't do business with the government?
That's correct. This language, as you know, was taken from previous legislation that I alluded to earlier, Senate Bill 911, that was passed 2 years ago as it relates to women.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing, please.
Yes, so you are correct in that this legislation identifies other businesses with the exception of those that have the LLCs as well as those that are 75% family owned. The legislation derived from a piece of legislation that this body passed with only 6 individuals, including yourself, voting against it. It was a bipartisan piece of legislation that passed on this floor.
Senator, please. We're going to refrain from talking about senators' prior votes, please. Please just answer the senator's question.
So if I understand this, then the intent, did the committee discuss this, that we're going to create this scorecard for every business that's registered with SDAT, except for these limited exceptions, that we're going to create this scorecard for the state of Maryland. Was that specifically discussed in the committee?
Yes.
And was there opposition voiced to this issue?
There were some inquiries made about it.
I'm sorry.
There were inquiries in the committee raised on whether this included all of the entities that didn't receive some type of state subsidy.
Okay, and the response was yes. We're going to have a Maryland scorecard on every business except for sole proprietorships and some other limited businesses. That we'll have this big scorecard on all the business in the state.
Yes.
And did anyone discuss the potential adverse effects of doing that? How that might impact our state?
Absolutely, and that actually around the issue is a tad bit. There was some confusion around whether or not it applied to all. Since that time, we've been able to get additional information to clarify that it is the intent of this legislation to identify those individuals in the first part of the piece of legislation, those individuals that are receiving some type of state subsidy, and in Section D, as you're articulated, to apply to all other businesses, whether they are or are not receiving some type of state subsidy.
So this will be online. There'll be a scorecard saying which are minority-owned businesses, which are not minority-owned businesses, and how much they're doing for the underrepresented communities.
More than likely.
Okay, and then who determines whether? I mean, who determines whether business XYZ gets an A for supporting these communities or an F for supporting these communities? How is that going to be determined?
Yeah, as you read the legislation, it really doesn't identify or provides any direction to the agencies that would be responsible for promulgating the regulations around this on a sliding scale, a 1, 2, 3, a ABC, or anything. It's just simply asked that there be a process put in place to identify the diversity of these organizations.
So we'll have this scorecard, and it'll say these businesses are racist and these are not. These businesses are sexist. These are not.
Senator, I don't think that's a.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but that's clearly, to me, that's exactly what this says. It's a scorecard. I mean, if I have a scorecard this is Maryland. We have racing scorecards. We have Orioles box scores. We have Raven scorecards. That means, who's ahead, who's behind, who's winning, who's losing.
Senator, if the senator wants to speak on the amendment or on the report as we get there, but if there's a question for the floor leader, please just direct it to the question.
Okay. So we'll have this online scorecard, which is not going to say. But when I look at this scorecard, what's that going to indicate to me a particular business?
One would think that in looking at this scorecard, we'll have an opportunity here in the state of Maryland, and even as consumers or those that propose to do businesses, that these organizations understand the importance of diversity, the importance of inclusion. And there's several articles, there's certain research that's been studied to show that organizations, especially those in the private sector that have a more inclusionary work environment and their leadership reflects so, have a greater propensity of being successful. And so what the scorecard will hopefully tell us is these are the organizations that are here within the state of Maryland that are either receiving state subsidy and or not, that have adopted the goal of having a diverse, inclusive board.
Okay. So, or it could mean that they're located in a part of the state where there just aren't any minorities. That could mean that too, right?
If this pandemic has taught us nothing else, it has taught us the advantages of technologies and reaching opportunities, not just across county lines, but through state lines. Okay. It creates so many opportunities for the private sector to do partnerships and have opportunities to develop them. And so even throughout this entire pandemic, you've seen a lot of board members, including this legislative body, host meetings that included various individuals not even being in the same room. And so this legislation is true in its mission to make sure that we as a state and in the corporate industry embrace and encourage diversity and inclusion.
All right, Senator,
So
just
under
a
the
quick
first-
reminder. We're only on the amendment. The amendment is simply about a limited liability company owned by a single member or a privately held company if 75% of the company's shareholders are family members. So if we could just limit debate at this point on the amendment.
I mean, they're pretty, they're sort of intertwined throughout the legislation. Mr.
Certainly, and
President. I mean,
we can certainly adopt it on or we can have that conversation on the favorable report, but just let's get through the amendment first.
Okay, just, is, based upon these amendments, is there any penalty for an entity that says, I'm not going to provide this information for these small businesses? If they say, obviously, if they're going to go for a state grant.
Senator,
they say
can you
don't
just
get the
speak up
grant.
just a little bit? I have a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry?
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, I'm sorry. So clearly, if an entity's going for a state benefit and they don't cooperate, they don't get the contract or the benefit. But if you're another entity, one of these folks who says, I'm not going to provide the information, what's the penalty or what's the remedy if they don't provide the information?
And so although the legislation doesn't identify any type of penalty per se, if they choose for whatever reason not to submit this information, obviously that entity would be an entity that would not be in good standing and in accordance, in compliance with the legislation we pass and the subsequent regulations to follow.
So they would no longer be in good standing with SDAT to conduct business in the state of Maryland? Is that what you're saying?
That would definitely be one possibility.
With SDAT, is that correct, Senator?
Thank you. I have a amendment at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, we're on the amendment. Just the amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Chair recognizes the Senator from District 36 on the amendment? Nope. All right. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Now we're on the favorable committee report. So the report is amended. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 36.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On the bill as amended, if the floor leader can yield.
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
In the last conversation you had, you spoke about the conversation we had in committee. It was very, very clearly stated that not all of Maryland's 430,000 business entities would have to supply this diversity data when they filled out their annual SSTAT report, which many people know to be the personal property tax report that you pay the $300. It was clear that that was not the intent of this legislation. You're saying this has changed?
No, it hasn't changed at all. But the bill is drafted, and you'll see from the fiscal note that 400 or whatever number that you just quoted. There are amendments that are before us, and that is to take out those entities that have 75% family shareholders, as well as those sole proprietor LLCs. There was some information, and as I stated to the previous senator, we have received additional information since we had our voting session, and we actually have a report here from the comptroller's office and this report speaks specifically to the legislation that was passed 2 years ago that really dealt with women, and the legislation that's in the bill before us, House Bill 1210, accounts for that language, whereas exempting those businesses that have 75% or more family or those sole proprietor LLCs. And then in that report from the comptroller's office, as opposed to the 400 or so number, the number that's identified is somewhere, it's still a pretty substantial amount of businesses. It's still a little less than 63,000.
Okay, so let's go backwards then. As you say, the amendments have been accepted, so we have out sole proprietor LLCs, we have out family-owned businesses, single-member LLCs are out. Regardless, you're saying every other business entity in the state of Maryland would have to fill out or provide diversity data when they file their annual SDAT report, even if they are not looking to qualify for the state benefits as listed in the bill?
Right, correct. So right
no,
now,
excuse
to
me.
date, without this legislation, every business in the state of Maryland is currently filling out information that they submit to SDAT to secure their business language. In doing so, they would also submit information as it relates to their diversity and or in addition to the mission of that organization as far as inclusion and diversity.
You're conflating two different things. The annual report is, the SDAT annual report is your personal property tax. That's a $300, that's the way the state makes $300 on every business. You're not required to, that's not a business license. It's not a, I mean, you don't have to provide that to do business, right?
Right, you have to submit the report.
Submit what?
You're required to submit the annual report.
To submit that annual report. But what I'm saying is you're saying now that you have to provide diversity information in order to do business in the state of Maryland? Any type of business?
No, we're not saying in order to do business in the state of Maryland, you would have to report on the diversity of your board with those exceptions that we've already articulated several times this evening. You would have to submit that information.
For what reason? If you're not looking to get the state benefits that are outlined in the bill, for what reason do we now have to have every other business that's not looking for state benefits to supply diversity data? That was not what we talked about in committee by any means. In fact, we very clearly decided that that was not the case because I had an amendment that would assure that, because I said it does seem a little ambiguous on whether or not that's required or not. And committee counsel referred specifically back to, looks like page 4, item D, and it says that if the person submitting this report is an entity that is subject to 16106,
19.
I'm sorry, 19, thank you, sir. 19106, the report shall include diversity data. So if you're not subject to 19106, which is all the information talking about state contracts, doesn't that mean that you don't have to provide this information?
Can you ask that question again? It was long and I was distracted.
Page 4.
I'm clear on what page you're on. You're on
Senators,
page
1 second.
4.
Will the floor leader yield to the Senator from Prince George's?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you. I just wanted to respond. I've been reading the bill over and over, trying to get at what the gentleman was speaking to about SDAT and good standing. I don't think that the bill refers to that. I think the bill requires that the businesses report in their annual report this data and that they report that information to the state. So on the good standing piece and the SDAT and the personal property report, I don't think that part is in the bill, if I read it correctly. So I just wanted to at least speak to that piece of the discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Floor Leader, was that?
It very specifically talks about section 11-101 about the report that's due every April 15th. And that is the part, if the person owns during the preceding calendar year owned property that is subject to property tax.
Senator, I think that's existing law.
I know it is. So my point is, further on in that section of 11-101, now it talks, there's an exclusion. There's something that says, again, this is in the tax property article, there is saying if a person submitting this report is an entity that is subject to 19106 of the business regulation article, the report shall include diversity data as required by the regulations adopted by the Department of Commerce and the Office of Small Minority Women-Owned Business Affairs. So that refers back to the section of the bill that we are talking about, 19-106. So again, my question is, if you're filing that annual personal property tax report and you are not subject or not looking for the state benefits that are outlined in 19-106, do you need to provide diversity data?
Yes, unless you're exempted.
Says who? Why? Where did how did that information change since we left the Finance Committee room?
The information did not change. The legislation is what it is. There was some confusion in the voting session, as I previously stated, which we've since had the opportunity to clear up.
Who's cleared that up?
You've definitely contributed to clearing it up for us. We appreciate that, but also in conversations with committee staff and others.
Well, committee staff is who advised us when I had the amendment in committee to clarify this, and they said that was not necessary because of this portion of the bill, of the property, the tax property section of the bill says if you're not looking to achieve those state benefits, then the filing of the information does not apply to those businesses.
Senator, I just answered your question. Is there anything unclear about what I stated in my response?
Okay, so
I stated that there was
mentioned
some confusion in the voting session. It's since been cleared up. This is what before us, and this is how it applied. Is there anything about that you do not understand that I could help with?
Okay, so you're saying that even though this language is in there for some reason, we introduced the property tax article to this piece of legislation that says that if you're not subject to this, then you're saying you still have to do it anyways because someone in committee staff said so.
Oh, Senator.
I didn't understand how that, that's...
Hold on, take a breath. All right, I think the senator has answered the question.
Are there other ways, Mr. President, that we determine these types of things? The floor leader mentioned something about the comptroller saying something. I don't know if we want to take legal advice necessarily, but should we have the Attorney General take a look at this? This is a very important part of this, and it wasn't designed to be a debate on the floor. Again, that's why I offered the committee, the amendment in committee, so that it could be discussed there and worked out there. And I withdrew the amendment only after we heard that this was not the intent of the bill to ask every single business in the state of Maryland to provide diversity data, whether they're getting state benefits or not. That was not the intention.
Yet here we find ourselves.
Well, senators, I think it's clear. I think it's important that we have all the facts of the bill, right? I think that clearly if there was something that was misstated in the committee or if there was a misunderstanding by the analyst at the time, that's something worth clarifying. I think we can ask, and we'll have our wonderful folks here ask the Attorney General's office just for clarification, but let's move on from this point and see if there are other questions. The senator raises a valid issue. We'll figure it out, and let's see if there are any other questions.
Okay. With that, Mr. President, if we can get an Attorney General's opinion on this, I yield.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th District.
Thank you, Chair. Would the floor leader yield for question?
Sure.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Floor leader, is it true that Maryland is a diverse state and has approximately 30% African Americans that are in it?
Absolutely.
Would it surprise you to know that, particularly of those public companies that we are aware of, that are amongst us, so that we do have information on that there is less than 4% representation by African Americans on the boards of those entities?
No, it would not surprise me.
Senator, would it not be the intent of this bill to bring some transparency for the people of the state of Maryland to understand the board composition and also the mission of the people who we as Marylanders are spending money with in the sense of $1 million and the other criteria that are out there that are contemplated by this bill?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Senator.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. So let me ask you, if I could. Could I
Does the
speak
floor
to
leader have a,
excuse me.
excuse me, does the
I'm
senator have a
sorry.
question for the floor leader?
Yes. Could I ask the floor leader some questions?
Senator Yield, Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Let me. I have a number of strip shopping centers in my district. I suspect a lot of members on the floor have strip shopping centers. So let me just give you some examples and ask how they would be treated by this. This is Section D I'm talking about, the scorecard. So at the
I'm sorry, Senator, can you please speak into the mic?
I'm sorry. I think I'm speaking into the mic. I have strip shopping centers throughout my district. I suspect many members of the Senate have the same. So I want to ask you a series of questions about stores in the strip shopping center. So at the very end, there's a pizza store that's owned by two men. It's called Bill and Jack's Pizzas. And let's assume that they're both white. Based on this scorecard, is it correct that they would both receive the lowest possible rating, a D or an E or an F or whatever the rating is assigned on the scorecard?
There's nothing about a rating, but there's other qualifying factors in the legislation that you're probably going to ask me in follow-up questions that will help me to understand whether or not these two store owners would be subject to this legislation.
I'm sorry. Now, I had a hard time hearing you. It's all this plastic that's causing.
Oh, it's all good. I understand. I get it. And so I don't have enough information based off of the limited amount of information you gave me about the pizza shop on whether or not they would be subject to the legislation.
Let me give you some more information. Two men, they're two white men. They form a corporation. The corporation opens a pizza shop. They do that to get the limited liability that a corporation would offer. They're white men. They're selling pizzas. Based on the standards of the scorecard set forth here, is it not correct that they would receive the lowest score on the scorecard?
Are they related? That leads me to asking you other questions. And so my question back to you, and I don't know if this is proper, but the senator hasn't provided me with enough information to know whether or not it's applied. So my question would be, are they related?
No.
What is their mission? Does their mission identify opportunities to be inclusive of diversity? Or are they only serving to the individuals that meet the composition of those who own the business?
They're not related, and they're selling pizzas.
Are they only serving it to white men?
Two white men, unrelated.
Are they only serving it? Is their mission only to serve to white men?
No.
Right.
Anybody who wants to buy pizzas can buy pizzas.
And so thereby your question is answered, Senator. If just because by virtue of their representation and ownership on their board, it does not preclude them or give them any certain lower score. Also, this legislation doesn't say that it has to rate them in a certain way. It's just is given the opportunity for our agencies, the Department of Commerce, as well as what was the other agency? Department of Commerce, as well as the Office of, they just changed the name recently, so it's hard for me to always remember off the top of my head.
Me too.
But it's the Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs Office. Those agencies will promulgate whatever regulations to further define, to make sure that these businesses are included in this bill. But if your neighborhood strip mall and a pizza joint only want to serve to a certain population or don't have a mission that reflects the richness of diversity and inclusion here in the state of Maryland, it's more than likely that they may not score as high as other institutions that have embraced that ideal.
I'm confused. So if this pizza joint breaks Maryland's laws and discriminates against minorities, it would get a low rating. But if the pizza joint follows Maryland's laws and does not discriminate against minorities and serves everyone, does that mean it gets a high rating on the scorecard?
Mr. President, the senator is testifying on a bill that I'm not sure that's in front of us. The bill doesn't state that, and in this hypothetical scenario in which he describes, it gives no situation or it gives no example of the business in which he described, whether it exists or not, I don't know, in which way they've discriminated. And so to answer his question, without all of the information would be disingenuous on my part.
I'm just trying to figure out how the businesses in this strip mall are going to rate on the scorecard. You do call it a scorecard in the bill. A scorecard normally means there's a high-rated organization and a mid-rated organization and another organization down at the bottom. So based on my example of the pizza joint run by two white men who formed a corporation and they're not related, I'm trying to figure whether that organization would rate at the top, the middle, or the bottom.
All right, Senator, I think I think the point has been made. Senator's point is made. If the senator wants to speak on the bill, the senator is welcome to speak on the bill.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th District. On the report.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. If I could ask the floor leader a couple questions.
Sure. Senator may proceed.
Mr. Floor Leader, you named a number of ethnic groups that would be represented by this piece of legislation, House Bill 1210. Would it be considered that these are all people, ethnic groups that pay taxes to the state of Maryland?
Absolutely.
And House Bill 1210 isn't the first time that we as a state would have ensured that our folks are represented by dollars that are spent by the state, correct?
Correct.
We do this whether it's by wages, we do this whether it's by health care, we do this whether it's by retirement, or as you are doing with House Bill 1210, just ensuring that people have a seat at the table, correct?
Correct.
It can be seen that with more data, we as legislators, we as constituents can make even more informed decisions. So when we talk about submitting the information, and all you're doing is asking to submit the information and the second provision of it, that these folks, we all can make more informed decisions, correct?
Correct.
So, Mr. Senate President, as he answered the questions on the bill, if I could just speak to the bill.
On the bill, Senator may proceed.
There comes a moment where we would say that it's time. In this country, we are having that conversation, and it is a very intentional conversation. It is a very complex conversation and a very challenging conversation. When I look at House Bill 1210, I think about what I'm always told. If you're not sitting at the table, then you're on the menu. And what happens when these decisions are being made at these tables, all we're doing as a body, as a Senate, as a House, is ensuring that our constituents have representation at this. It was stated that blacks are one third of the population of the state of Maryland. But that is not reflective of our boards, whether it's nonprofits, for-profits, et cetera, et cetera. And all this chamber is doing with House Bill 1210 is trying to make sure that we elevate that conversation that is not just going on in the state of Maryland, but as stated again, across this country at this moment. So I thank the person that sponsored House Bill 1210 and Mr. Floor Leader. I really appreciate this dialogue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 5 on the report.
Mr. President, since we're talking about the bill here, I think this is a really important point that we're making. I have some concerns about the thrust of the bill as it relates to saying that somebody can't get a state tax relief or tax credit because of the racial makeup, I don't care what the racial makeup is, of their board. However, there's a much larger issue at play here. We just heard about the percentage of corporate boards. Again, those are big corporations. This bill impacts all businesses, including the hypothetical, it's not that hypothetical, two men owning a pizza place. If this bill, we need to get clarity. I know you said we're going to get clarity, Mr. President. This is really important because there was confusion when we voted this out of committee on this. There is a national conversation going on right now. The focus of making sure that government and things running through our state government funding by taxpayers are fair and equitable is a fair conversation. I don't support this bill, but when you're talking about someone getting state dollars, at least there is an argument to be made. But if we're talking about the government getting into what your diversity is or any type of makeup of a private company's board that is not even going to do business with the state, that's a big difference. It's a huge overstep. And it's not what I think, it's not a step we want to take, and it's not how we felt what this bill spoke to when we were voting on it in committee. Again, I have a problem with the bill as some of the other provisions. But I just want to say again, talking about this, we need data. For what purpose? It is none of the government's business who's on your board if you're not getting involved with the government for contracting. I'm not sure I don't believe it's the government's business either way. But certainly if you're a company that's just filing with SDAT to sell pizzas or work on somebody's car, if we're going to make it so that now you have to fill out and give personal information on who is on your board or in your executive structure, that is going to have a dramatic chilling effect in a number of areas. And it's not wrong or bigoted to say that. We cannot have the government involving itself that heavily into a private company's affairs. The implication seems to be from some of the comments that if you have a board of a few people at your business, and it's not how we're going to define diverse, doesn't matter if you might be in an area that's, I represent a county that's pretty white bread, and we're working actually to try to improve diversity in our school system. We've made a real effort to try to make sure we're hiring a more diverse workforce, and I'm all for that. But when we're talking about private business, you're going to go around and say, well, because we don't see you as diverse enough, you're on the bad list. That's incredibly inappropriate for the government to be doing that. If we're talking specifically, we're talking about businesses who are not interacting with the government. So I think we have to be very careful here, because the goal should be if our goal is to try to improve the entire makeup and what's happening in our country, you're going to foster resentment with some people instead of improving things. If you try to make businesses in the state of Maryland, all businesses, give detailed information, people are going to get very defensive, they're going to get upset, and it is not the appropriate role of state government to be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Let's see. We've got the Senator from District 44 on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the floor, Leader Yield, for some questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. I would like to just ask just a couple of questions about the disclosure piece of this legislation. Would you, by any chance, know if there are other states or anyone else that has considered disclosures like this?
I know, what was it, 2 years ago, that we passed legislation, the state of California passed similar legislation around women, and since then, I believe the same state has done the same as it relates to these ethnic groups.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Yes.
Are you?
I'm familiar with it, but not in the context of this piece of legislation.
How about NASDAQ?
Yes.
Would it surprise you to know that last year, NASDAQ actually proposed a rule which would require operating companies listed on NASDAQ U.S. exchange, subject to certain exceptions, to have to publicly disclose board-level diversity data and either have at least 2 diverse directors, including one who self-identifies as a female and one who self-identifies as an underrepresented minority or LGBTQ, or publicly disclose why they do not have those people on their board?
That is similar to the information that I've received, Senator.
Thank you very much.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from District 6. District 6? On the report, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill, by
Senator
looking, I
McPhee.
see it says the underrepresented community, sir. And the problem that I have with this is the groups. And looking at the Native Americans, this group is not realistic in number, because it's not possible for all these by percentage to be exactly as it needs to be, sir. Senator, I wasn't
Senator,
sure if that was a
Senator,
question.
Senator, the senator is speaking on the report. I don't think he has a question. for the
Yes,
board.
I'm speaking on the report. That's all. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. And all I'm saying, Mr. President, is that looking at these realistically, and you see the numbers, there's some that can be made whole. I understand that, and I know the point. But I see at the same time, some of them cannot be. And I think this needs to be reevaluated because, to me, looking at this right here, it's not realistic in number, and that's all I can say about that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 19.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we've heard a whole lot of what I think is some information that's not entirely accurate, and it's around this notion of a scorecard and what the implications of that might be, that some businesses will be receiving the lowest rating of that scorecard. They may, in fact, receive an F. I would direct the chamber to the language of the bill, which specifies that the Department of Commerce and the Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs shall develop this scorecard. It does not say anything about you'll get an A, a B, a D, an E, or an F. So, as the Office of the Attorney General will frequently do when looking to understand the meaning of a word that is not defined in law, they turn to the dictionary. That is their process. And what is the common understanding of the word? So I've got the Merriam-Webster definition of scorecard in front of me. And it breaks it down into two definitions. One is a card for recording the score of a game. Clearly, that's not applicable to the use of scorecard in this bill. But two offers the following definition: a report or indication of the status, condition, or success of something or someone. A report or indication of the status. That's what this bill is about. To report back what is the status of the boards of directors in our state. It doesn't say anything at all about getting an A, a B, a failing or passing score. It says a report of the status or condition. That's what this is about, to provide us with information so that we do have a better understanding of how we move forward in ensuring that we have balance, equality, and equity in our business interests here in the state. It's about giving us a little bit of information, and with that, maybe we'll be able to develop guidance to make improvements. That's why, Mr. President, members of the chamber, I voted for the bill in committee, and I'll be voting for the bill here on the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 34 on the report.
Mr. President, first, I would move to recommit this bill to the committee. It's clear from the testimony that was given here today that the vote that was taken to pass this bill back for second reader was taken based upon really a very serious misunderstanding in the workings and the purpose of the bill. So with that, I would move that we recommit.
All right, Chair. Senators move to recommit the bill. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the motion.
Mr. President, I would ask that this body reject the senator's motion to recommit and for a roll call on that vote.
All right, Senators, any further discussion on the motion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. Yes, Senator from the 34th District has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
No, I just want to continue to argue on the bill after the vote's done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the negative, the senator's motion fails. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the people of the state of Maryland are subject to the United States Constitution, which protects the freedom of association. And while the first part of this bill directing that we develop scorecards and require additional information for folks to get contracts from the government and other benefits from the government is probably appropriate, the government of the state has absolutely no business trying to determine who can associate in a business relationship. These are business relationships. Any people that want to come together and do business relationships are entitled to it. They must do so in the state of Maryland in compliance with all the laws that require you to serve people equally, treat them equally, house them equally, et cetera, et cetera. But it's totally inappropriate for the government to say who you will have in your business and how you will associate. We measure businesses' compliance with the legitimate goals of the state and the nation through our processes that can pull their license and sue them and shut them down if they don't comply with all of our other bills, all of the other laws on dealing with people equally, serving them equally, employing them equally, treating them equally. That's the appropriate realm for the state, not to interfere with the freedom of association. And the second half of this to say, not I'm only going to tell you who you can associate with, I'm going to score you on who's moral and who's not moral. And let's not beat around the bush here, because the bill does say, it says that the government's going to rate you on how you're complying with this, that they're going to on your support for underrepresented communities. And how dare the government of the state determine who's supporting underrepresented communities? You can have a wholly majority-owned business in the state of Maryland that's employing a lot of minorities in a really tough to serve area of downtown in an urban area. That's a heck of a lot of support. Is that going to show up on this scorecard? They may be doing a lot of business in the minority community. They're not shilling out bucks in grants, but they're there. They're serving. They're helping. They're assisting. That's not going to show up in this scorecard. So it's outrageous to me that this government would have the audacity to say who's better than anybody else in how they treat other people. It's totally an appropriate role for the government, and we're pretty miserable at that anyway, in my opinion. So I just think I feel fairly confident the bill is unconstitutional on that side of it. But as a practical matter, this body ought to reject it even without having to submit this bill to litigation, just because it's simply inappropriate role for the government to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report as amended, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District. Yes, Senator.
Yes, thank you. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. If the senator could read the amendment number.
823 225/1.
225. One moment, Senator. All right. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it's a pretty simple amendment. It just says that it defines entity as an entity that receives the state benefit. This would allow the interpretation of the second part of this bill to simply require that the diversity information is simply required of those entities that do benefit that do contracts with the state, pursue contracts with the state of Maryland, or other benefits from the state of Maryland. I think it's a much fairer, more appropriate, constitutional, and uniting interpretation of this bill. Thank you.
All right. Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Ladies and colleagues, I'm going to ask that you resist this amendment. I want to thank the senator for providing the amendment prior to session starting. This was an issue that was discussed in our voting session. It was thought about very carefully. I just remind this body that the Speaker of the House introduced this piece of legislation after very
Senator, we generally avoid the senator's intent or purpose. If the senator is more than welcome, please talk to the senator's advocate on behalf of the bill, but please avoid referencing the sponsor's intent.
All I was going to say is given the environment here, the idea of this bill is really to give us as a state to prioritize diversity and inclusion. We've made similar actions most recently, and most of the data in the articles will point to that, inclusion, in these boards and commissions is really important. We've identified that those who are doing business with the state will definitely have a standard applied to them, and we should know the status of any other businesses that are doing business in our state, consistent which this body overwhelmingly has done in the past.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr.
All right,
President?
on the amendment, Chair
Mr.
recognizes
President?
the senator from District 36 on the amendment.
Mr. President, I think the Senator 36 might be willing to yield to me for a moment.
The senator from District 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just in speaking on this issue and this amendment, talking about it being very carefully considered in committee, as my friend from District 36 mentioned earlier, it was discussed extensively, and we were assured that this wasn't needed. That this wasn't needed because the intent of the bill was clear. And so, I mean, again, I feel very strongly that we should either make it very clear or we should get an Attorney General's opinion, which it sounds like maybe we're working on that. But this, again, if we want to have a discussion about what the state can require of people, of entities that are getting a benefit from the state, although let me also say, state tax dollars have been talked about in our committee and on this floor as if they belong to the state. It's actually all our money. It's all taxpayers' money. But I digress. If we want to put some provisions and requirements on what you have to do to get certain state contracts, I may not agree with where we're going with that, but that at least makes some logical sense. It makes no logical sense to force businesses to give lots of personal, private, and otherwise private information, small businesses, not NASDAQ corporations, but small businesses, to have to do this information. So, I mean, the gentleman's amendment is needed, or some clarification is needed, and that this amendment would provide that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd District on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask the floor leader a question, please?
Will the floor leader yield?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. We talked about this in committee, and it's gotten a little complicated tonight because we've heard some different things. But back to the fiscal note, which I shared in committee, it starts out by saying, that this bill requires a business to demonstrate diversity and support, but in order to qualify for specified state capital grants, tax credits, or contracts worth more than $1 million. Mr. Floor Leader, I would like for the committee to take this amendment and consider it in our next voting session and consider this amendment and then bring it back to the floor. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you.
So maybe, how about this? How about if the senator has moved a special order of the bill to the appropriate time tomorrow? Is Finance having a meeting in the morning? I think we might now.
Good.
Okay, let's do this.
If it is sent back to committee, we'll take
the issue up in the morning. All right, so let's do this. Let's special order the bill. We'll have Finance review it. We'll get the Attorney General information. Just make sure we have the appropriate right information. Not that the bill's back there, just so they can take a closer look and bring that opinion back to the floor for the body. Are there any objections to that motion? Without objection, so ordered. All right. We're looking at timing. All right, let's do this next laid over bill 28. Let's see where we can go. Clerk, will read the bill.
House Bill 1060, Delegate Patterson, Charles County Board of Education, membership alterations. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right. A question is on the two committee amendments. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th district on the amendments.
On the amendments, Mr. President, can I just ask would the floor leader yield for a question?
Floor leader yield. Who's our floor leader? Yes. Oh, senator from Charles County, of course. Senator may proceed.
I'm sorry. I couldn't see through to you, so I see you, Senator. I understand this is a local bill, right?
That's correct. It's a local bill.
Okay, and it deals specifically with the Charles County Board of Education, right?
That is correct.
Not the Charles County Commissioners, correct?
That is correct.
Can you just go real quick? This bill looks like it's been amended almost 3 times. It came in one way, it got changed, it's now back a different way. Can you just very quickly tell me the current status of how Board of Education members are elected, appointed, chosen, and then what this bill is doing in order to resolve that?
Yeah, definitely, Senator. Currently, all the school board members in Charles County have to run at large in the entire county. And I think the second part of the question, how does this bill change that? This bill will require for the school board members to run in a district-based elections. We have 4 commissioners who run in a district, and so we have, with this bill, there'll be 2 school board members per commissioner district plus 1 at large, so a total of 9 school board members in Charles County. Plus, of course, we have a student member,
right,
which will attain limited voting rights under this bill.
Okay. So when the bill was introduced, it was going to be, it looked like 7 members, right? And then amended to 9 members, 2 from each of the 4 county commissioner districts. But then it looked like it said it was a resident of the school board district, and that was changed to the county commissioner district. Is that right?
Correct.
And so how many school board districts are there?
Well, that was, the school board district was in the original bill.
Right.
But that was amended out to make it just based on the current commissioner district. So the school board district now is null and void in this bill that we are debating at this moment.
Right. But there are currently school board districts, correct?
No, sir.
There are no more. This eliminates the school board districts?
There are no school board districts in Charles County. The entire school board run at large currently.
Okay, so there were never any school board districts?
Correct.
Okay, and so you just use the county commissioner districts with this?
Correct.
Okay, and again, this is a local bill, right?
Correct.
And for a local bill, did you need a letter from the delegation, Senate delegation or House delegation?
Yes, that's, our committee requires that, and so that letter was signed off.
That's great to hear. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the work that you're doing for Charles County. I'm glad they have trust in you to come out here and give them the type of elected school board that they're looking for. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
On the questions on the two amendments, and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or recital? Seeing none, House Bill 1060 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. All right. We've got a bunch of second readers. I think we can push for a little bit longer. Let's get a little bit further. We've got budget and tax. Finance has been busy. JPR has been busy. Let's get budget and tax up. We've got report number 29 in budget and tax. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 497, Delegate Boyce, property tax, urban agriculture property, repeal of repayment requirement, favorable.
Chair recognizes. Can't see. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Maybe the senator from the shore.
From the Middle Eastern Shore?
Yes.
Senator from the Middle Eastern Shore, 37th District. Floor report.
I'm sorry. Let's see, House Bill 497, which is a property tax credit. Repeal of payment, yes. This bill alters an existing property tax credit that counties and municipalities are authorized to establish for urban agriculture property by repealing the requirement that if the property ceases to be used for urban ag purposes, the owner of the property is liable for all property taxes that would have been imposed if a property tax credit for that urban ag property had not been granted. There are no committee amendments, and I would move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right. The floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 497 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1209, Delegate Lukey, sales and use tax, peer-to-peer car sharing, alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1209 makes permanent the 8% sales tax rate for peer-to-peer car sharing if the vehicle that is rented is not part of a fleet. The sales tax and use rate is 11.5% if the vehicle is part of a fleet of vehicles that include 10 or more vehicles. There were no committee amendments. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Yes, on the report, Chair recognizes Senator from District 5. On the report.
Could I just ask the floor leader a quick question?
Will the floor leader yield? Senator may proceed.
Thank you. I was thinking about special ordering this, but maybe a quick answer might do. I was looking at the amendments. What does this do for the current tax? Does it gradually raise the tax, or is that what's addressed with the amendments?
To answer the senator's question, Mr. President, there are no amendments on this bill. Zero.
Let me clarify my question. The House heavily amended the bill when it came over. As the bill came in the House, according to the testimony, there was pretty significant opposition. It looks like it was a tax increase on peer-to-peer. Is that now changed? I was just trying to understand what the amended bill did, but I understand. I realize it wasn't amended by us, but yeah.
The posture that the bill is currently in at this moment leaves the tax rate at 8%. It is currently at 8%. It would leave it permanently at 8% going forward in perpetuity.
And what about then there's a second rate of 11.5%, and that's the same, right? It's leaving it in perpetuity.
So the 11.5% is for fleet. So it's for fleet, and fleet in this bill is defined as 10 or more vehicles, and yes, that is 11.5%, and that would stay there forever in perpetuity.
And the change maybe the change was assigning a tax rate to a fleet. Is that likely what the main thrust of the bill was, or it was just that we needed to make this in perpetuity?
So in previous years, the reason why we've had continuous debate on this issue is because some of us believe that if it would have sunset, if the 8% would have sunset, it would have went to 6% as the tax rate just in general for the state of Maryland.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much for your answers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Any further discussion on the report? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1209 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1279, Delegate Lukey, Regional Institution Strategic Enterprise Zone Program Alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 30 as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a cross-file of Senate Bill 778. It alters the existing Regional Institution Strategic Enterprise RISE Zones program, which is currently incredibly underutilized. The bill establishes, for qualified businesses, a rental assistance grant program and an enhanced biotech investment incentive and a cybersecurity incentive tax credits. The House bill has a few differences from the Senate bill. These were informed by some important amendments from the Department of Commerce. These changes are: the business must have a nexus with the institution. It may not receive a rental assistance for more than 3 years. It must submit an application and a report, and it will be subject to an audit. There are no committee amendments, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1279 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right. Let's see. I think we had another B&T. Keep B&T busy for a little bit here. Where are you, B&T? Yes, 28. Oh, I missed that one. 28. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 114, Delegate Learman, Maryland Transit Administration Funding, Transit Safety and Investment Act, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 114 alters and extends provisions of the Maryland Metro Transit Funding Act that require increased operating and capital spending for the Maryland Transit Administration. The bill also establishes a Purple Line Construction Zone grant program in the Department of Commerce. The bill is similar to what we've already passed, Senate Bill 199, which passed in this body. The committee amendments add a requirement that the Department of Transportation conduct a feasibility study on extending MARC rail service to Western Maryland. The amendments conform to Senate Bill 199. Move adoption of the committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 3 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 114 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 173, Delegate Feldmark, Community Colleges, State Funding Revision, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 173 is amended to be identical to Senate Bill 433, which passed third reader on last Wednesday unanimously. It specifies that certain funding be included in the formulas for community colleges and Sellinger schools, as well as requires the USM medication school to provide certain specialized clinic care at the Capital Region Medical Center and rural hospitals. There are 3 committee amendments. The first makes technical changes. The second and third amendment modifies the bill to conform it to Senate Bill 433, as I already described. I move adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of 3 committee amendments, favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 173 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 421, Delegate Rosenberg, Income Tax Distribution Tax Clinic for Low-Income Marylanders, favorable with 2 amendments.
Mr.
Chair
President.
recognizes the senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 421 is almost in the same posture as Senate Bill 480 that passed out unanimously out of this chambers, dealing with legal clinics for helping people with their state taxes. This would apply to the University of Maryland Law School, University of Baltimore Law School, and the Maryland Volunteer Lawyers Service. There were 2 committee amendments, which basically make it parallel with the Senate bill that passed out here unanimously. It makes sure that each of these law schools gets 1/3 of the funding. It also puts it back into the same posture of the amount that was going to go into this service, $250,000, which passed out of this chamber. I'd move the committee amendments and the adoption of favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 421 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 441, Delegate McKay, Department of Assessments and Taxation, identification number for Business Task Force, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 441 requires the State Department of Assessment and Taxation, SDAT, to convene a task force to study and make recommendations on the adoption of a unique Maryland identification number for each business registered and licensed in the state to be used specified state agencies. SDAT must report to the governor in General Assembly by December 1st, 2021. There are no committee amendments. Move adoption of the favorable committee report, Mr.
Floor leader
President.
moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 441 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 528, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County, repeal of impact fee, authorization of building excise tax, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 528 is a local bill that authorizes the St. Mary's County to impose a building excise tax on any building construction in the county. The county's existing authority to impose a development impact fee is repealed. There are no committee amendments. Move the adoption of the committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 528 is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 530, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Gaming Administration of Bingo Licenses, favorable.
Oh, bingo. Chair recognizes the senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 530 is a local bill as well. It authorizes various bingo administrative duties from the county sheriff to a person designated by the St. Mary's County Commissioners. There are no committee amendments, and move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 530 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 571, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Disabled Active Duty Service Members, Disabled Veterans, and Surviving Spouses, Property Tax Abatement, MC 2021, favorable. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 571 deals with property tax abatements for our active disabled veterans and retired disabled veterans and their spouse. I just wanted to, commend, even though this is a Montgomery County delegation bill, I just wanted to thank the distinguished senator from District 18 who's been a great leader on this. He's put in legislation last year, and this is the continuation of this. Just the reason why we need this is in the federal government, when people apply, sometimes there's a lag. So this gives the ability for Montgomery County to go ahead and start processing this in the back end because of the delay on the federal government. There's no committee amendments. I'd move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader, excuse me. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 571 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 711, Delegate D. Jones, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, Donations to Diaper Banks and Other Charitable Entities, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 1 as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, House Bill 711 creates a subtraction modification against the state income tax for a person who makes a qualified donation to a diaper bank or a charitable entity registered with the comptroller. The bill is similar to Senate Bill 622, which has already passed the Senate. The only differences are the bill requires a report and sunsets the subtraction modification. No committee amendments. Move the adoption of committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 711 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 813, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Public Facilities Bond, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 813 authorizes the St. Mary County Commissioners to issue up to $30 million in general obligation bonds for the acquisition, construction, improvement, or renovation of public buildings, facilities, and public works projects. There are no amendments. Move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 813 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 852, Delegate Kaiser, Property Tax, Tax Sales, Homeowner Protection Program, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 852, as amended, establishes the Homeowner Protection Program within the State Department of Assessments and Taxation and the Homeowner Protection Fund that will support the program. The bill requires the governor to include an appropriation of $750,000 in the annual budget bill of each year for fiscal 2023, 2024, and 2025 to fund the program, although we really think it's not going to cost that much once the program gets up and going. The bill prohibits a tax collector from selling at a tax sale the dwelling of a homeowner who's enrolled in this homeowner protection program. There are 2 amendments. Amendment 1 makes technical changes to the title, and Amendment 2 adds reporting requirements regarding the homeowner protection program and clarifies that the tax and interest payments made under the program accrue to the Homeowner Protection Fund. I move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 852 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 862, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County and Metropolitan Commission Debt Limitations, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rounding out the St. Mary's bills here this evening, House Bill 862 alters the calculation of the maximum amount of debt that the St. Mary's County and the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission may issue. There are no committee amendments. Move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 862 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 901, Delegate Bartlett, Anne Arundel County Hotel Tax Alteration, Distribution of Revenue, favorable with 1 amendment.
Let's see, Anne Arundel. Chair recognizes Senator from District 30 as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 901 has to do with the hotel tax here in Anne Arundel County and how it's distributed. It requires the City of Annapolis to allocate 3% of its hotel tax revenues to both the Annapolis Art and Public Places Commission and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The City of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County are required to establish special funds for the distribution of hotel tax revenues to certain community organizations. The bill also establishes reporting requirements and oversight of the hotel tax revenues provided to certain community organizations. Mr. President, there's 1 committee amendment clarifying when the report is due. I move the 1 amendment in the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment in the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 1 committee amendment is adopted. Are there any? Oops, sorry, just kidding. Questions on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 901 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 933, Delegate Bartlett, Anne Arundel County, Transfer Tax, Housing Trust Special Revenue Fund, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 933 authorizes the Anne Arundel County Council to increase the county transfer tax on a written instrument conveying real property if the actual consideration is $1 million or more. An increased transfer tax rate does not apply for real property that provides affordable housing. This is an important change the House implemented. The bill establishes the Housing Trust Special Revenue Fund to be used to provide affordable housing to moderate and low-income individuals in the county, including the city of Annapolis. Mr. President, there are no committee amendments. Move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 933 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 937, Delegate McIntosh, State Lottery Fund, Maryland Humanities Council funding, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 937 requires the Comptroller to pay a grant of $150,000 directly from the State Lottery Fund to the Maryland Humanities Council for Maryland Historic Day and other programs. As an amendment, makes changes to the bill to account for changes in law requiring from a recent veto override. I move the adoption of the committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 937 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1010, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Payment in lieu of Taxes Agreement, Low Income Housing, Prince George's 415-21, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1010 as amended is a local bill that authorizes Prince George's County to enter into payment in lieu of tax agreements with owners of specified low-income housing developments. The committee adopted 2 clarifying amendments that clarify that property that is acquired is also eligible for this pilot agreement program. Move the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1010 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1173, Calvert County Delegation, Calvert County Public Facilities Bond, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1173 authorized the Calvert County Commissions to issue up to a certain amount in general obligation bonds for public work projects. Amendment. Committee amendment increases $20 million to $26.4 million, the maximum amount in GO bonds that the county must issue. Move adoption of the committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, on the report, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1173 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1178, Delegate Brooks, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, First-Time Home Buyer Savings Account, favorable.
Chair recognizes
Mr. President.
Senator from the 14th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 1178 gives a Maryland taxpayer the ability to open up a first-time home buyer's savings account in a financial institution, and also allows them to have an income subtraction modification of $5,000 every calendar year that they would have a benefit of using toward their home purchase. And it would they said that you can't go up above $50,000 over a 10-year period. And, Mr. President, there's no opposition to this bill, and what the realtors reflected in their testimony is in the market of first-time home buyers, they've reached their 30-year low. So this is hopefully going to incentivize people to save up for a home and give them credit while doing so. There's no committee amendments. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1178 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1182, Delegate Kipke, tax, property tax sales, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 1182, as amended, requires a county tax collector to sell a property at a tax sale if, among other requirements, the property is a vacant lot no more than 15 feet wide, the tax on the property is in arrears for at least 8 years, and a specified adjoining property owner petitions the tax collector to sell the property. The bill takes effect July 1, 2021, and terminates on June 30th, 2023. There is one amendment. This amendment clarifies that the bill applies to property that is no more than 15 feet wide. Move the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1182 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. All right, we can go to JPR Finance. Let's do JPR. They've had a break so far. We had like a near JPR debate earlier, but now we'll actually get to JPR. Let's do report number 35. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 9, Delegate Shetty, Family Law Mandatory Reporter Training, favorable.
House Bill 9. House Bill 9. Oh, yes. Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 9 requires the Department of Human Services to post on its website a free online course on the identification, prevention, and reporting of child abuse. There are no committee amendments. With unanimous vote, move favorable to committee report.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 9 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 39, Delegate Shetty, action for change of name, waiver of publication requirement, favorable.
Oh, yes. Chair recognizes Senator from District 11 as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 39 requires a court on motion by an individual who's filed an action for change of name under Maryland Rule 15901 to waive the publication requirement set forth in the rule. The bill is identical to its cross-file, and the cross-file passed the Senate 34-13. There are no committee amendments. I move for the favorable adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 39 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 248, Delegate Shetty, Condominiums and Homeowners Association, Rights and Restriction, Composting, favorable.
Yeah. All right. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Delegate Shetty is getting a hat trick tonight. This bill prohibits a condo and an HOA association, homeowners association, from prohibiting or unreasonably restricting a unit owner or lot owner from contracting with a private entity to collect organic waste. It also prohibits an HOA from prohibiting or unreasonably restricting a lot owner from composting organic waste materials for the lot owner's use, provided that the lot owner follows certain requirements. There are no committee amendments. Mr. President, I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 248 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 250, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, commercial motor vehicles inspections, favorable.
All right. The chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill generally increases the mileage at which certain vehicles must be inspected, maintained, and repaired by a preventive maintenance technician. As a result, some of these vehicles may be subject to less frequent inspections and maintenance in their first 5 years of operation. There was no opposition to the bill. There were no committee amendments. The committee vote was unanimous. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 250 is hereby ordered to pass for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 297, Delegate Pena-Milnick, Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission, reporting and sunset extension, favorable.
11? Oh, yes. Chair recognizes Senator from District 44 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill extends from June 30th, 2022 to June 30th, 2024, the termination date for the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The bill also extends until December 1st, 2023, the deadline by which the commission must submit a final report of its findings and recommendations to the governor and to us, the General Assembly. The committee vote was unanimous. There are no committee amendments. Mr. President, I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 297 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 322, Delegate Hill, real property restrictions on use, low impact landscaping, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The bill prohibits specified restrictions on the use from imposing unreasonable limitations on low-impact landscaping. Such restrictions on use include covenants, restrictions, or conditions included in, among other instruments, deeds, declarations, or contracts. The bill may not be construed to prohibit a restriction on the use from including reasonable design and aesthetic guidelines regarding the type, number, and location of low-impact landscaping features. The bill is not applicable to historic property that is listed in or eligible for inclusion in the Maryland Register of Historic Properties. There were no committee amendments. Mr. President, move favorable the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 322 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 356, Delegate Chee, corporations and associations, filing fee study, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 356 requires the State Department of Assessments and Taxation by January 1st, 2022 to review the filing fees and associated requirements of neighboring states that are equivalent or substantially similar to filing fees in Maryland and report recommendations to the General Assembly that would make Maryland more competitive with neighboring states, including whether to establish less frequent filing requirements, decrease fees, or establish a sliding fee scale. There was no opposition to this bill. There are no committee amendments. The committee voted unanimously to support the bill. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right. Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 356 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 744, Delegate Dumais, courts, counsel appearance fees, domestic violence, favorable.
House Bill 744 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, I'm just kidding. We're on the favorable committee report. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to get through this calendar, and then we're going to read some conference committee reports, and then we're going to call it. How's that? Everyone all right with that? I'll take that silence as a yes. All right, so the question before the body is the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none. House Bill 744 is hereby ordered passed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 781, Delegate Dumais, Corporations and Real Estate Investment Trust, miscellaneous, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 781 is identical to Senate Bill 263, which passed on this floor 45-0. It makes various changes to laws governing corporate actions for corporations and real estate investment trusts as applicable, including with respect to forum selection requirements, remote stockholders meetings, the Maryland Control Share Acquisition Act, and premature stock issuances. There was no opposition to the bill. There are no committee amendments. The committee voted unanimously to support this bill. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 781 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 861, Delegate Polakovich Carr, real property, landlord and tenant, reusable tenant screening reports, favorable.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from District 11 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 861 requires a reusable tenant screening report to contain certain information regarding a prospective tenant. It requires notice regarding whether the landlord accepts such reports and prohibits the landlord from charging certain fees related to the reports, and it authorizes the landlord to require a tenant to certify the report and reject an application if there's been a material change to it. The bill's provisions are applicable to residential leases only. It is identical to its cross-file as passed by the Senate, and the cross-file passed the Senate 3312. I move for the favorable adoption of the committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 861 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1347, Delegate Barvet, real property, impermissible restrictions on use, portable basketball apparatus, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, is this the last calendar of today?
I think we have one more
Okay.
that apparently was told that we've got one more to do.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my son Eli is 11 years old. And just this morning, we walked about a block from our house to shoot hoops on a portable basketball hoop. Now, I look like me, and my son looks like me, and nobody looks sideways at either of us when we play ball. Like my son, Kassan Al-Mateen is also 11, but he doesn't look like me. And when he takes a break from Zoom school to shoot some hoops on his portable basket, his neighbors aren't as kind. The chairman and I had occasion to meet Kassan. We played 2-on-2 with Kassan and his buddy Cooper. You can ask me the score off mic later. And it was clear to us that in the midst of the greatest pandemic we have ever seen in our lifetime, for Kassan, basketball is an important and simple pleasure. They may look different, but I see a little bit of my own son in Kassan. He's a great kid. We should honor Kassan. We should honor his simple pleasure. We should honor childhood. House Bill 1347 prohibits unreasonable limitations on the location and use of portable basketball hoops. There are no committee amendments. Mr. President, I ask for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to bring to the body's attention that we went through an entire JPR calendar without any questions. Just saying. There you go.
Well, there went session, because that jinxes, well said. Well said,
Mr. President, I'm just kidding.
Everyone was holding their breath. But we still have amendments. So, are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1347 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, we've got one more finance, just with two little bills, and then we got some conference committees, and then we'll pause. So this is going to be Finance 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 643, Delegate Polakovich Carr, Public Health, Cosmetic Products, Ingredient Prohibition, favorable.
Chair recognizes Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 643 bans a person from knowingly manufacturing, selling, delivering, holding, or offering for sale in the state a cosmetic product that contains any of 24 listed intentionally added ingredients. The person, though, is not in violation of the bill if the person manufactures or sells a cosmetic product that was manufactured through a process intended to comply with the bill but contains a technically unavoidable trace quantity of the prohibited ingredient. The bill takes effect January 1, 2025. There are no amendments, no fiscal impact. There was zero opposition to the committee hearing. The bill passed unanimously out of the Finance Committee. Mr. President, I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 643 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 768, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Community Choice Program, Pilot Program, Montgomery County 1721, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair. Is the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, House Bill 768, it's a local Montgomery County bill, no impacts outside of Montgomery, which passed unanimously out of the Finance Committee, establishes the Community Choice Aggregation Pilot Program and authorizes Montgomery County to form a community choice aggregator beginning December 31, 2023 under certain conditions. The Public Service Commission must adopt related regulations, including those related to risk mitigation for standard offer service customers. The pilot program must begin on the date the county gives notice to the PSC of its intent to form a community choice aggregator, or April 1st, 2024, whichever is earlier. The program ends 7 years after beginning, but no earlier than April 1st, 2031. The bill also establishes a related work group and various study and reporting requirements. Amendment number 1 makes clarifying changes. Amendment number 2 adjusts the dates of various requirements as described. Amendment number 3, and this is very important, that Montgomery County government will be solely responsible for and pay costs associated with any stranding costs as specified. Mr. President, I'd move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report. I would note the bill passed on a bipartisan basis unanimously out of the Senate Finance Committee.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended. Oh, no, just kidding. We just are adopting the amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? If not, in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 768 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's read some messages. We got a couple bills. We got to get these conference committees going. Let's start with Senate Bill 107. Clerk will read the message.
Senate Bill 107, Senator Hayes, Labor and Employment, Secure Maryland Wage Act. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Hayes chairman, Senator Bidle, Senator Augustine. The House appoints Delegate Dumais chair, Delegate Valderrama, Delegate Chi. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
The message having been read is ordered journalized. We've got another message for Senate Bill 205. Clerk will read the message.
Senate Bill 205, Senator Heddleman, alcoholic beverages sale or delivery for off-premises consumption. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Simonera chair, Senator Pinsky, Senator Washington. The House appoints Delegate D.E. Davis chair, Delegate T. Branch, Delegate C. Watson. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Seeger.
The message having been read is ordered journalized. We've got one more message, another conference committee, 762. Clerk will read the message.
Senate Bill 762, Senator McCray, Maryland Electricians Act revisions by the Majority Leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates does not recede in the House amendments to the Senate bill and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The Senate has appointed Senator Pinsky chairman, Senator Washington, Senator Riley. The House appoints Delegate Crosby chair, Delegate Rogers, Delegate Adams. Said bill is returned herewith by order Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
All right, that'll do it. So we've only got a couple second readers left, so we'll just take those up in the morning tomorrow. We're going to have some long days on the floor. We don't want to overdo it tonight because it's going to be a long week. Let's do committee reports. Chair recognizes the chair of the Finance Committee.
Finance will meet at 10 a.m. to make a final decision about the bill that we had on the floor tonight.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of Education and Health. All right. Chair recognizes the Chair of Budget and Tax. JPR. Chair of JPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. JPR will meet tomorrow at 10:15 for a voting session.
10:15. All right. Excellent. All right. Any further announcements? Standing committees, select committees, delegations? Appears not. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Tuesday, April 6th at 11 a.m.
Without objection, so ordered. Stay safe, wear your mask, get the vaccine.